Day 1685. It's been too long since I've shredded some rails or flipped some gnarly kicks. I remember the days when our rivers of games were overflowing with Tony Hawk, Rodney Mullen, and Bucky Lasek. We took those days for granted, and we should have been kinder to them. I wonder if I'll ever see another letter of Skate. Or listen to Bam Margera tell me I need to wreck more and think less. I don't know if there's any hope in seeing another good skateboarding video game again. The last game we ever saw was an insult to the entire series of Tony Hawk games. Why must you mock us, Activision? It seems like those days are over, and everyone is past skate culture. I hope there's light at the end of this tunnel. I hope Nia Houston makes some crazy epic street skate game. I hope there's still a place for skateboarding video games someday. Until these things come to pass, I'll be here in my bunker, playing Skate 3 because EA hates the idea of Skate 4 with next-gen hardware. No more handling noise! Hooray! Hoo-woo! This channel's actually going somewhere! Also, I have a mustache now. I'm a mustache man now. We're gonna have to get used to it. So the video game market hasn't really seen a major release of a skateboarding game since 2015, and even with that release, it was not that good. Sorry, Tony Hawk. I love you, but not a great decision from Activision. Cool, we're all in agreement here. Great, awesome, but why? Why haven't we seen this major release of skateboarding games since 2015? And with that, it wasn't that great. Is skateboarding dead? Are skateboarding games no longer profitable? Does nobody care about the skateboarding community? What's going on here? What are the factors that it left behind? What are the factors that it's coming back into existence? That's what I want to talk about in this video. Will skateboarding games ever come back into the mainstream? But before we get started, hi. My name is Adam, and if you're new here and you're a human being, you should click that subscribe button so that you can join our community of other human beings and enjoy some of these videos. We got videos just like these as well as our weekly podcast. So if you're new, you're a human being, and you're so inclined to, click that subscribe button. I can do this now because there's not a microphone in my hand. Woohoo! So we might not have the skateboarding games that we so crave for a while now, but that doesn't mean they're gone forever. But I want to explain where they went, why they're not here, will they ever come back? And I do believe we are going to have a resurgence of skateboarding games in the near future, but we need some explanation first. We need some context. Where did skateboarding games go in the first place? I want you to picture this. It's the year 2000. Or the late 90s, or the early 90s. What demographic you're born in, I don't really know. But picture it. You're in your teenage years, it's the early 2000s, you're in your room listening to MXPX or Goldfinger, you're loosening your trucks for that sick ride. If you're a maniac, you're tightening your trucks. Stop it. Loosen your trucks, please. But after the day is gone or in the middle of the day, it doesn't matter. You got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 to just pop into your PS1 like you're a maniac. It's amazing. That was the thing in the 90s and the early 2000s. Skate culture was at its peak. Everybody and their mothers was skateboarding, and that's a fact. Skateboarding was the mainstream thing. It formed pop culture. MTV had whole segments about skateboarding. You had huge names like Bam Margera, Tony Hawk. Rodney Mullen was still a thing, even though he was the father of street skating in the 80s and the 70s. But that, I don't think that was right. I should Wikipedia later. Okay, fine. But that's the thing. Your pop culture icons were skateboarding at the time. And not many people skateboard anymore. And that's the thing. People still skateboard. I understand that. Your boy still boards. But at the same time, you look at Google Trends and the term skateboarding has just decreased since 2004. It's just not the pop culture icon it once was. Now, the other part we need to understand is that video games are an art. They are an art form. And what's the one thing we know about art is that art depicts what's in the mainstream of that time period. That's why you see in the Renaissance paintings, you got things going on in Renaissance. I'm not an art historian. I know the mustache makes me look like it, but I'm not one. So I'm sorry. But if we argue that video games are an art form, you need to argue back that they will reflect, they will mirror what's going on in the mainstream. That's why skateboarding games were on the rise in the early 2000s. That's why war games like Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, they were on the rise when we were on our peak of the Iraqi war. I would like to argue that. But even today, going forward, we have more sci-fi games coming out. And why is that? It's because we have more of an interest in the outer space. SpaceX, Elon Musk, all of them. Teslas, I guess. I guess they're sci-fi, but that's the thing, is that we saw so many skateboarding games is because skateboarding was in the mainstream. It was its time period. Now today, you see more space games because space and everything around it is part of the mainstream now. Is math related to science? We all need to know this right now. But that's the thing, we're in a different time period now. We're so distracted, we're all staying inside, and skate culture was all about the freedom of that, not being connected to anything and just going out there and riding. We're in a different political climate, we're in different technology forms, we're in a different interest level. And that's the thing, skate culture just didn't follow. It's not that it couldn't follow, it's just that it kind of fell behind with what everybody was doing at the time. And because skate culture is losing interest over time, again, looking at Google Trends here, it's losing its trend, therefore it's not in the mainstream, and therefore video games as an art form are not reflecting, they're not mirroring what's going on in the mainstream right now. And as an art form, and skate culture is not part of that mainstream anymore, that art form shifted. And that's where we are today. Skateboarding is no longer in the mainstream, so video games won't focus on that as much. So yes, skate culture is on a decline nowadays. And yes, video games will reflect that. But the other part of this story is that the decline of skate culture isn't the only factor of why skate games don't exist anymore, or at least it's not as much as we used to have them. This is just one factor, but we need to look at another reason why skate games aren't around anymore. There's only so much you can do with skateboarding games over time to keep them fresh, to keep them new, to have a new fresh take on the genre. I mean, the Tony Hawk series did absolutely great with that phenomenon. I mean, going with Tony Hawk Skater 1, 2, and 3, Tony Hawk's Underground 2 was, it was okay. It wasn't bad. It was fine. Then we had Proving Grounds, which in my opinion, I thought Proving Grounds was pretty sick. I'm a little biased because the first part was in Philadelphia. Your boy's a Philly boy, so sorry for that bias. But Tony Hawk's franchise was excellent in that way. It tried to differentiate itself. It tried to make something new and fresh every single time. We're not going to talk about Tony Hawk's Ride though. I don't want to talk about it right now. Let's just make sure that's in the back of our memory. I don't want to remember that game, okay? I don't want to talk about it. But that's the thing, even with Tony Hawk games, it got a little stale after a while. I'm gonna be arguing that, American Wasteland wasn't that fresh. I didn't really like American Wasteland. But then we got EA's version of skateboarding games with Skate 1 coming out in 2007, and that was a resurgence for the skateboarding game genre, and that was fantastic. Skate 1 was fantastic. Skate 2 was okay, but then we got Skate 3 in 2010, and then we haven't seen anything since. Look at the time code. It's 2020. It's been 10 years. What's happening? But since Skate 3 in 2010, we haven't had really any official word about a Skate 4, and we've had just about a 10-year drought of good skateboarding games. It's because we can't really focus on the fresh ideas. We have, Skate. Proving Grounds kind of wanted to do what Skate did, but that's the thing, is that the only fresh ideas we had was Tony Hawk's Ride. Oh God, no. And that's what our take was for fresh new ideas. And even before that, we had an oversaturation of the market. Everybody wanted to make a skateboarding games because that was what was popular, and that was a thing. But then we started to see an era where less and less ideas were being put out there until we got this huge drought. I'm not gonna count Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 in that drought. That was just a little blip. And the reason why I'm not counting that is because even with that, the only reason why why Activision put out Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 was because Activision was about to lose the license for Tony Hawk, so they wanted to get more bang for their buck and just release it so that they can get a little bit of more cheddar with the Tony Hawk license. Was it successful? I think I've explained it at this point. No, it was not. The culture has shifted since the old days of skateboarding games, and people seem to have moved on. They don't really seem to care. I'm talking about the mainstream here. They don't really care that there's not that many more skateboarding games. We haven't seen a revival yet. We haven't seen skateboarding games made fresh again. We haven't even seen in mainstream culture, I'm talking about outside of video games now, we haven't seen that big resurgence of skateboarding yet. Don't get ahead of me now. Now, while skateboarding games have declined, the skateboarding culture has declined. While skateboarding games haven't seen that fresh take yet, does that mean there's no hope? Does that mean skateboarding games will never come back into existence? I think there's still hope. And I think there's still hope because of what we're about to see in the next, I'm gonna say it, in the next 2 years of skateboarding as a sport. And I believe this resurgence will bring back skateboarding video games into the mainstream. In my personal opinion, I think we're about to see a resurgence in skateboard culture, and I think we're about to see a shift of skateboard culture in a new way that we haven't seen before. I mean, looking at YouTube right now, while you may look at them as like, oh, they're just, mainstream, they're not real skaters, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing, YouTube channels like Braille and Revive and Andy Strock's channel, they're actually bringing a resurgence back into the sport of skateboarding, and they're getting all of the views. Their trends are hitting high. Revive skateboards are getting a lot of sales because people want to go out and skateboard again, even beyond what people are doing on YouTube. The athletes of skateboarding, we got Nia Houston and Shane O'Neill massacring the sport. They're murdering it. I mean, look at what Nia Houston can do. Look at that. I can't do that. How's he do that? That's more impressive than putting foam on coffee. That's crazy. But we've got brand new names coming into the sport. Again, probably my favorite is probably Nia Houston, because he's just a monster on the board. And even before this virus pushed back the Olympics, you know what was about to happen for the Olympics? For the very first time, skateboarding. Skateboarding was about to enter the Olympics for the very first time in history. If you don't know, that's pretty huge. And the fact that skateboarding has entered the Olympics, we'll start to see a resurgence of people's interest, because guess what? Now you can get on a skateboard and possibly enter the Olympics by representing your country on a skateboard. That is mind-blowing. That's going to do a lot for the sport, and that's going to enter a resurgence for skateboard culture. Skateboarding won't be seen anymore about some punk kids who need to get into trouble so that they go on a board and they do some nasty rail tricks on the LA courthouse. That's pretty sick. I always wanted to do that, but it is what it is. But even more so, we're already starting to see that in 2020 and 2021 following, we're going to see some more video games be centered around skateboarding again because of this resurgence, because skateboarding is once again entering the mainstream. We've got games like Session coming into early access into Steam. We've got Skatebird, which is about skateboarding birds, and it's kind of like the Tony Hawk series, and it's in like little pet burps. It's adorable, and I funded it. I'm loving it so far. We've got games like Skater XL coming to the PlayStation Store in July, and that's going to be fantastic. But even crazier is that Tony Hawk has already said that he's working on a new franchise with a new company. I'm not sure if it's going to be Activision, but Tony Hawk wants to get back into skateboarding video games again. While yes, we have seen a dip in skateboarding games over the past 10 years, again, going back to my personal opinion, I don't think we could escape skate culture. It brings out the best of human nature, the freedom of it, the satisfaction of landing a new trick, and just the fun of it. Just merely having fun on a board, it brings out the best of human nature, and you can't escape that. And that's why we're seeing a rise again with skateboard culture. And because we can't escape this, neither can video games. Video games are going to be inspired by skateboarding now, and you're going to see more games coming into skateboard realms again. It's going to happen again. Now, while it might not be in the same way as we're all thinking, because like I said, I think skateboarding won't be as much of a punk kid kind of, free time kind of thing. I think it's going to be seen as a legitimate sport because it's now entered the Olympics, and I think you're going to see that shift going to skateboard titles. And because little Tommy and his high school team will try to make the varsity team in skateboarding, that's why we'll see skateboarding games again. We're going to see this rise, we're going to see this resurgence, and once again, I think there's this big hope that we'll see skateboarding games again. Just not in the same light, but guess what? We're going to be skateboarding again in video games. And I think that's brilliant. Here's the thing we all have to remember. Patience is a virtue. And all of us have to be patient when it comes to bringing back skateboarding games. It's going to happen, but we need to be patient. It might not happen today. It might not happen tomorrow. It's going to happen someday. We just have to wait for it. Skateboarding is making its inevitable revival, and I think it's fantastic that people are going back into the sport of skating again because it brings out freedom again. I really want you to learn skateboarding. Even if you just buy a skateboard just to ride around, that's awesome. Really feel that freedom when you're on the board and just cruising around in wherever you live. Unless you live in Ohio. You can still skateboard in Ohio, I think, right? Yeah, go Ohio. But that's my point though. If you really want skateboarding games to come back, you need to bring it back into the mainstream. Show interest in the sport. Just watch some X Games, make the ratings go up. Buy yourself a skateboard, build a skateboard. Go into your local Zoomies. You can do that. Go into Zoomies. Go ahead. Go into Zoomies. But it doesn't matter is because you're showing interest in the skate culture. Whether or not you learn how to skateboard or learn how to tray flip, it doesn't matter. You're showing interest in it. And if you show interest in it, so will the mainstream, and it will have the snowball effect. And who's going to follow with it? Video games! Hooray! Video games follow it because they are an art form and they mirror what culture is. So my final point in all of this, bring back skate culture, bring back skating video games, vote with your wallets, your Google searches, and maybe we can also bring back ska music once again. That might be wishful thinking though. I don't think it's ever gonna come back to the mainstream. We miss you, Goldfinger. We miss you so much. Hey, what's going on everybody? Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And yes, I know Goldfinger is still touring. I get it, but they're just not in the mainstream. Okay, I get it. But like I said, I think we should all show interest again in skateboarding because that's where video games will follow. They'll follow where the mainstream is, not because, oh, they're followers. It's because they will reflect what's going on in culture today. But I still think there's hope for skateboarding games. Like I said, once the Olympics come into 2021, we're going to see skateboarding in there. Nye Houston's going to get the gold medal. I don't care what you say, but that's the thing. Skate culture is coming back. And with it, skateboarding video games. Tony Hawk's making his new skate game, but I can go on and forever. But definitely support your local skate shop. Definitely support, lesser known skaters. I don't skate with. I'm not sponsored, but Wisdom Skateboards, they're awesome. They're a Christian skateboarding company. Definitely check them out. Go to Revive, the Revive Skateboard Company. Check local people out. But okay, I'm rambling on. Go out and skateboard. Go find yourself a skateboard, even just a ride. I'm just gonna go over here now. Bye.